I wanna add to the collection, add to my carry rotation. Something big enough to have fun, fast enough to impress, and small enough to carry for any situation. But I don't wanna run of the mill. I want something special, something king of the hill. It doesn't need to be a race gun, this isn't just to have fun. I need precision, I want the best gun. It needs to be a Langdon. Everything today is cheap and throw away. I don't want another striker, I want second strike capability. I want appendix carry safety. I want a hammer-fire double action, but nobody's trigger brings any degree of satisfaction. Not SIG, not HK, not anything from Turkey. Smooth, fast, and total precision. I guess it'll be a Storm from Langdon. Open the box, grin like a fox, now it's finally mine. A slice of heaven, a piece of perfection. Now let's go to the range and finish this inspection. Oh damn, oh wow. Accuracy without correction. Have I stumbled onto perfection? Now what am I supposed to do with this erection? It's kind of a distraction. I can see their expressions. I hope nobody mentions what's going on in that section. Oh damn, oh wow. Accuracy without correction. Have I stumbled onto perfection? Now what am I supposed to do with this erection? It's kind of a distraction. I can see their expressions. I hope nobody mentions what's going on in that section. Oh damn, oh wow.
Hey guys, welcome back into A to Z EDC. My name is Jim, and I'm here to discuss with you what I think is one of the best and most underrated carry pistols pretty much of all time, and that is the Beretta PX4 Storm Compact carry. This particular version is my custom that was done up by Langdon Tactical, and we'll discuss the basis of the Beretta PX4 Storm, and then we'll also talk about what Langdon has done and if it really is worth all of the money that you're going to spend to put into either your own PX4 Storm or ordering a complete gun like I did directly from Langdon. Now, the PX4 Storm, in my opinion, is one of the most versatile hammer-fired double-action guns that remains on the market today. And there's not really a lot. I mean, when you really think about it, there's really only a handful of hammer-fired guns that are out there. Even fewer that are hammer-fired and polymer-framed. With the compact carry, you've got something that's easily small enough to carry. Let's go ahead and switch that out. Make sure you guys see that it is clear. And when you've got the flush fit mag in there, I have a couple of mag extensions, then it is very, very compact with a very short grip, and we'll talk about the specs here in just a few minutes. But the funny thing is that the PX4 Storm, because I think honestly of its ergonomics and the way that you're firing it, it actually shoots like a much larger gun. You would think with its accuracy and the way that it shoots that you were shooting a full-size gun. It's kind of weird. Now, one of the reasons behind that is going to be this rotating barrel design. Now, the reason why this is important is, number one, very, very few guns left on the market that have a rotating barrel design. I think at this point now in 2024, the only popular ones that are out there, and not to say that the PX4 Storm is popular by any stretch of the imagination, and the other one most people have never even heard of is the Grand Power. Now, the Grand Power pistols, they're cool, they're slick, they're much more performance-oriented. This is much more defensive or carry-oriented. But that rotating barrel that you see here is actually slowing down the action of the gun, allowing it to feel a bit softer shooting. Now, you will never hear the stupid phrase flat shooting on my channel because I don't believe in it. What irks me beyond words when I'm watching other people's reviews is if they're actually out there shooting and they say, this is such a flat shooting gun, and you're watching the muzzle jump in their hands. You're thinking, do you understand what the word flat even means? So that's just not a phrase that I use. It's not part of my vernacular, but I will say it is a bit softer shooting. Now, it's not doing anything to really take away from the muzzle rise, but as far as the actual felt recoil, what's coming back into your hand, this is a little bit softer than most everything else that you're going to shoot in its size category in a polymer frame gun. So it's not the night and day difference that other reviewers have stated with this gun, but it is noticeable when shooting with other pistols back to back to back, even a full-size pistol. But it's not so drastic that you thank God you found this holy grail of a gun. While already being accurate and reliable, the PX4 is taken to entirely new heights by Langdon Tactical. Now, you can choose, as I said before, to either send them your own gun, so you already own a PX4, and you can send them the gun and then check off the options or packages that you want them to install on your gun, or you could do what I did, which was buy the complete gun from them. Now, I've got everything they offer except for one thing that I didn't want. They offer a Gray Guns flat trigger, and I'll pop a picture up here on the screen of what it looks like. I despise that trigger. I love a flat trigger shoe. I have a lot of flat triggers in my guns, but I don't like a really long length of pull. There's just no reason for it on a carry gun. Especially considering that I may carry this while I'm wearing gloves, whether it's in the winter time and I'm wearing winter gloves to keep my hands warm, or when I'm riding a motorcycle and I've got my motorcycle gloves on. This may be the gun that I choose to carry that day, and I want to be able to get my finger in the trigger guard. Now, as you see, I've got full-size hands, I've got big hands, but I don't have really fat fingers or anything. But even so, in double action, I don't have a lot of wiggle room to get my finger in here and to do it consistently every time I go from presentation to, hey, it's time to go. So I wanted to keep the original curved stock trigger shoe. I thought I might regret that just because who wants trigger flex, right? And when you're talking about a polymer trigger, in some guns, you do get trigger flex. I especially thought with this being a double action with a very hard long pull that I might have trigger flex. But my mind was put at ease within seconds of unboxing it and seeing that the polymer trigger isn't flexing at all. Or if it is, I sure as hell can't feel it. Now, the optic cut is the other big reason why you go the Langdon route. The trigger is the main attraction. The next big thing to me was the RDO cut. First off, nobody until Ernest Langdon engineered the solution could mount a red dot on a Beretta PX4 Storm or 92 series gun. He's the guy that came up with it. And once he figured out what had to be reconfigured within the internals of the slide to allow a plate or an optic or whatever to be sitting on top of the slide, a couple of other companies started to pick up on it and started doing it. Couple of places do it, but none look as low as LTTs. And in my opinion, having a red dot on this thing is a game changer. And that goes for any gun. Any gun that you've got that you go from shooting iron sights to being able to put a red dot on it, it changes everything about how you shoot that gun. Now, for some people, it's going to be that you can shoot it a lot faster. You get faster target acquisition or faster follow-up shots. For some people, depending on their eyesight, this is much easier for them to pick up than the regular sights. Now, it's hard for you to see here because of the focal length of the lens on my camera, but what I actually have is I have the ACSS reticle in a Holosun 507, and I love it. You should never see that ginormous round reticle. You should only see that very, very fine chevron when you're holding it up. And I just realized there's a couple little hairs on there. Hold on one second. And we're back. With the ACSS reticle, what it does is if you draw your weapon and for some reason you haven't trained thoroughly enough that your sights are always aligned on your presentation, you get a little visual indication that your brain automatically tells you which way you have to move in order to find your quote-unquote dot. It's not a dot, it's a chevron. But in this view with my camera, it looks like a dot to you. So if you see this, you don't even have to think. Your brain tells you, if I'm seeing that right edge of the circle, I need to move it this way to bring the dot into view. Likewise, if I'm pointing too far down, I know that because I see the top of the circle. My brain automatically adjusts and tells me this is the direction I need to go in. So people that are unfortunately dot focused instead of target focused as they're learning to use red dots, they don't have to fish around and search for the dot. The dot will come into view for them. Now, if you've been training and practicing where you're target focused and all you're doing is superimposing that dot over that target, boom, okay, there's the color red, I'm done. Instead of, where's my dot, where's my dot, where's my dot, and now put it on top of the target, that is certainly going to be a big aid for you as you're training. Now, beyond training, it's really, really good for your personal carry because you don't ever know that you're going to get a perfect draw stroke, that you're going to get a perfect grip, and that you're going to get a perfect presentation every single time that you, I shouldn't say every single time, but at the time that you actually need to use your weapon defensively. If that's the case, let's say for some reason I can only grab this and I've only got one arm in use, and I see this, I need to overcorrect and bring it back this way. So it could be one of those things that's a deciding factor on whether you or the bad guy walks away from your experience. I'll take any aid that I can get, and I feel it's a good choice. Now, everybody's going to be different on that, and that's really a separate discussion from this gun, but I did want to discuss that just for a second. Now, as I mentioned, the trigger is fantastic. We'll come back to that in a moment. The RDO cut is fantastic as well. I feel it sits nice and low. And I don't really care about co-witnessing. It's not something that I ever concern myself with. But I am able to co-witness because of the height of that rear sight on the plate and the suppressor height front sight that's being used. Those are all installed by Langdon as well. Now, bobbing the hammer is now standard on the basic LTT packages. And here's where we start running into some differences in the age of the gun. Between the time I got mine and now here at the going into fall of 2024, they have changed things up because Beretta has changed things up. So the packages are a little bit differently, or done a little bit differently. I had to pay for this option on my gun. Now, I don't recall if that was a separate individual option or if it was bundled in perhaps with the trigger or bundled in perhaps with the NP3 coating and crown barrel. But either way, that was an expense that I had to bear. Now, when I say that Beretta is making things a little bit differently, it's because you can go back about 2 years, and Beretta started making, because of the popularity of the Langdon tactical guns, Beretta started offering this gray slide version, the LTT version, which looks like an LTT gun, but it is not an LTT gun. It's Ernest Langdon saying, hey, I feel these few things are vital to the design of this gun, and these are changes that should be implemented whether somebody buys a custom gun or not, and that is the stealth levers. This is kind of in between the stock and the stealth. This is the newer levers. And the trigger bar is changed out, so you get a little bit of a better trigger just because of the trigger bar being changed, and the bobbed hammer. Now, if you buy an LTT version of the Beretta PX4 Storm from Beretta, you will get those things. You'll get the gray Cerakote slide, you'll get the slimmer line decocker, and it'll be converted from safety to decocker, and you'll get the bobbed hammer. All of those things I had to pay for individually or in a package. So there are definitely some differences now. Now, on the decocker, when you buy the gun stock, let's say you just have a regular PX4, not even the LTT edition, you get these huge wings flying off the sides of the slide. They're a pain in the ass. They're enormous. And it's a safety. So when you pull it down, it would decock and leave it, and it would stay down and be a safety. So it would disconnect your trigger. That is not the case here. Here, it's a decocker only. So, what Langdon had originally done was he was using what they called the stealth levers. They were almost, actually I think they were completely flat. And then there were people that complained that they couldn't actuate the decocker without stopping, turning the gun sideways in their hand and doing it this way, or using their offhand. So this is the compromise between the ridiculous stock levers and the stealth levers. Now let's talk about the trigger, because that really is why most people are going to consider buying from Langdon Tactical. Now the trigger job brings the staggering 9+ pound double action trigger down to 5.5 to 6 pounds. So it's significantly lighter, and I mean significantly, and it's so wonderfully smooth. It feels so nice. There is no way on earth that you can compare how a stock PX4 Storm feels to this. It's funny because back in, I'd say the early 2000s, I had gone into a gun show, and a dealer had a couple of PX4 Storms. He had this, which is the compact, and he had the subcompact. And I kept looking at it going, damn, that's an ugly ass gun, but it looks like it'd be pretty ergonomic. And I put it in my hand, and I did it one time and went, I have to own one of these. This feels so good in my hands. At that time, I was only carrying Glock 19, Glock 23, Glock 26, and Glock 27. Those were my mainstay guns at that time. So to me, this was such a wonderful departure in the ergonomics that I went, yeah, I've got to get one of these. I never got around to buying one. And then later down the road, when I had remembered that I liked it and considered buying one, I just never did. I kept chasing all kinds of different things. So I just simply never got around to it. I didn't care that it was kind of butt-ass ugly. And I didn't care that it was thick. Because again, I was carrying already thick, ugly guns, so it didn't really matter. I was also doing what everybody else did. I was moving away from hammer-fired guns, like my 3rd gen Smith & Wesson automatics into polymer striker fired guns. Glock had really gotten a hold of me very, very strongly. And then every gun that came out that was supposed to be the next Glock, which was like the Springfield XD. Yep, I was one of the morons that fell for that initially. Boy, I'm glad I wised up quick on that. I even made a bigger mistake and bought the very first generation of the Smith & Wesson Sigma. As we all thought, oh man, Smith making a Glock? What could go wrong there? Yeah, we all found out, didn't we? Holy shit, did we find out. Anyway, so back to the trigger. The double action is truly night and day. And to give you somewhat of an example, I'll bring out one of my other favorites, another one that I carry often and really, really love, my CZP-07. Now, I've got a snap cap in here because these, I'm trying to do it without ejecting it, cannot be dry fired without a snap cap, thanks to that little roll pin right there, and you don't want to break it. Actually, no, is it there or is it this one? Anyway, there's a roll pin in there that can break if you're dry firing, and then you no longer have your drop safety. So anyway, this one, while it is a shorter stroke, it's very, very heavy. It's not smooth at all. And again, I love this gun. Part of it goes back to the ergonomics. I really like how this gun feels. You know, this was CZ's polymer CZ75. So it feels really good. It shoots really good. But that first shot, when you're concealed carrying, it kind of sucks. Now, when it's decocked, it's going to drop here to a half cock. So that shortens the length of pull a little bit, but it's still very, very heavy. I think that's about an 8-pound trigger. That's lighter than even this was when it was stock. So you're looking at going from a 9-pound trigger, and these have been rated 9 to 11 pounds. I've seen a lot of people pull different numbers, down to 5.5 to 6 pounds. And the biggest deal is how smooth it is. But even better than that, watch this. You got your little bit of take up on your single action. That is so crisp and so short. Now we're going to do the reset. I swear to God, you could accidentally fart and reset that trigger and not even realize it. The reset is stupidly short. And I love that. Playing with this trigger is almost like someone tickling you behind the balls. It makes you smile and you get kind of a whole body shiver, at least if you're as much into guns as I am. Now, I added the extra base pads because, number one, I like extra capacity and I get 2 more rounds that way. So now I've got 17 plus 1, and I've got large hands, so I like having that extra feeling of security by having that on there. Just gives me a little bit more grip. Now, when I got mine, there was no option for a magwell from LTT. Yes, you could order a magwell from Italy. There's I just forgot the name of the company. Gosh darn it, it's the same company that makes extended base plates and everything else. But I didn't want to do that because I didn't know if my factory Beretta extended base plates would work with that magwell. Now you can get a magwell from LTT and you can get a comp. Neither of those options were available back when I got mine. Now, the only thing that most people hate about the Storm series is its complete lack of texture in the grip. This whole side here is completely smooth. I think there's like one line. That's it. It is smooth as hell. A little bit of ineffective texture on the front strap, and I think there was a little bit of ineffective, it's a crosshatch texture on the the back strap. And the back straps are interchangeable. You have a small, medium, and large. Mine is the medium. It sucks. And no matter how many years they heard the complaints, Beretta didn't do shit about it. Now, I think that's ridiculous because this still is not a cheap gun, stock factory from Beretta. It's like $650, I think. They've heard the complaints for 25 years or whatever, and they ain't done shit about it. That's a bad thing. So, I had to put a cheap-ass grip sticker on my $1,800 custom carry gun, which makes it snag all of my shirts, and it feels kind of crappy and cheap in the hand. I'm not really a fan. Yeah, the Talon grips that LTT includes, you get that for free, they work fine. They do their job. I haven't really had this thing slipping in and out of my hand, but I just don't like how it feels. Some people have said on the Talon grips, oh, they feel just like you had a really good stipple job. No, they don't. It feels like I put a cheap, nasty sticker on my damn gun. And while I don't live in a hot weather state anymore, I used to live in Florida, I used to live in Texas. You go out on a really hot day and you shoot a lot of rounds, and different areas will start coming unglued and slipping, not just peeling off, but slipping and moving around. And what that leaves behind is a slimy, goopy mess from the sticky shit underneath. And it sucks. The only good thing about it is, if you stipple a gun, over the course of the lifetime of that gun, the stippling is going to wear down with use. And that's it. I mean, you only have so much polymer that you can re-stipple. This stuff, you can peel it off and apply a new one, and you've got your grip back. So I'll give Talon grips that. There is definitely some pluses to it. But I've got a really expensive custom carry gun here. I don't want to have to put a sticker on it. Now, LTT does offer a package with stippling, but they don't do it themselves. So you wait all this time. I waited 10 weeks from the time I ordered to the time they shipped my gun. So you wait however long their current wait time is, plus however long Boresight Solutions has your gun, because they're going to ship it to Boresight Solutions, and they're going to stipple the gun. And I have no idea how long they'll take. Come on, man. That's the only real piece of constructive criticism I can give to LTT, because I love this gun. I think it's fantastic. And I'm really glad that I've got it. And I don't feel that I overpaid for the performance of gun that I got. But if you're going to offer custom guns, and it's made of polymer, you should be doing grip stippling on site. It shouldn't have to go to a third party, especially one that I don't personally know. What if I personally had a bad experience with Boresight Solutions? And I'm not saying anybody ever has. I don't know. But what if I did? What if, I don't know, the owner of Boresight Solutions was sexually harassing my wife, and I don't want to put money in their pocket? I order a custom gun. I pay $1,500, $1,800, $2,000. And then you're putting money in that guy's pocket? Again, please don't think that I'm disparaging Boresight Solutions or their employees or their ownership in any way. I don't know them. I've never dealt with them. I'm sure if Ernest Langdon has decided to do business with them, that they do very, very, very good work. But I don't want to wait the extra time. And I don't want to give my money to other people. It's bad enough that you're buying a Langdon tactical and Ernest Langdon himself is not the one doing the work on it. He's only one man. He can't do it all. There is a chance that your gun could end up on his bench and he might do your trigger job. But otherwise, he has trained people in his facility to perform the work the exact same way that he does. So at least I know that, and I'm fine with that. But I don't know what happens when you're sending out to a third party. That's just not my kind of thing. All right, let's get to the specs because I promised that earlier and I've spent a long time talking about other things. So on the PX4 Storm Compact, your magazine capacity, as long as you live in a freedom state, is 15 rounds. Your barrel length is 3.27 inches. Your overall height without the optic, just the top of the slide, is 5 inches, and that's with a flush fit 15 round magazine. Your overall width, 1.42 inches. Guys, she's a chunky girl. Chunka. And I feel that she's a little bit weighty for what she is too. Your weight unloaded is 27.2 ounces. You have a very thick, heavy steel slide up here. That's where that's coming from. It's a double action firing system. Frame is polymer. Overall length, 6.8 inches. That's another thing that you'll hear differently on my channel than on other people's channels. You'll never hear me say DASA or double action, single action, just because I come from the old school back when you only had single action guns or double action guns. And then evolving from that came the double action only guns, which I don't think I even have any double action only guns. Then, of course, came Glock with their safe fire action. So you watch younger YouTubers and stuff like that, you'll always hear it's double action, single action, because it performs a double action and also it fires in single action. Yeah, well, that's a double action. So not saying I'm right and they're wrong or vice versa. It's just I'm 50 years old. When I go back to when I was growing up around guns, that's a double action, homie. That's it. There was no need to add a bunch of other weird things to it. Now, very quickly, I'll discuss with you the actual LTT options that I have on mine. So it has the full trigger job. It's not just the trigger bar, but it's the full trigger job minus the flat trigger shoe. I did the NP3 on the small parts and the barrel, and that included having the barrel crowned, which I'm really happy that they have that as an option. The RDO cut with plate. I didn't go ahead and get the optic because I already had an optic lying around. I had this 507C ACSS that I was holding on to for that one special gun that I wanted to carry all the time. So that's what I knew I was going to put on there. So I just asked for a standard RMR 507 cut. I put the optic on and it just worked perfectly. I'm sure the optic plate just drops right in. I'm sure it's machined to the tolerances where it's snug, but it's easy to get in and out. As far as mounting the optic, yep, that was super simple, and it's been perfectly reliable ever since. So, should this be your next carry gun? Man, that's really hard to say. This was my dream gun for a while, and I really, really do like it. Is it a forever keeper? I don't know. I'm a bit weird on guns as compared to knives and flashlights and other EDC items. I tend to hold on to my guns for longer periods of time. I grow an attachment to them that's a little bit different than everything else that I collect because I feel like I need to have a bond with the one thing that may possibly be responsible for saving my life one day. So I practice a lot with them, dry fire, live fire, drawing from retention, the whole thing. I spend a lot of time with each one, and each one has their own personality for me. One of the things that I find that isn't so great about this is the way that it carries. Number one, good luck finding a holster. I was able to. I just forgot who the hell it was that made it for me. I'll look it up, and if I can remember, I'll put it here in the video. and it works really, really, really well, but it's not common. You can't just go to any holster maker's website and select from the drop-down menu Beretta PX4 Storm Compact Carry. It's just not common. The other thing is it's really, really top heavy. This is a big, thick, wide, beefy slide. But the biggest thing for me, and I'll give you the comparison here with my Spectre Comp P365 XL. The thickness. This carries inside the waistband significantly easier than this. This also weighs a lot less. And I've got more rounds. I've got 17 plus 1 in here. I'm sorry, that's not more, because with the extended base plate, I'm carrying 17 plus 1. So this is lighter weight. It's slimmer. Is it shorter? I don't really know. Let's see. Butt to butt. No, it's actually a teeny tiny hair longer because of the compensated slide. I love carrying this gun. I don't love shooting it as much as this because of the very skinny grip, even though on this one I chose to go with the Wilson Combat Grip Module, which is swelled out and wider and much, much, much better texturing. So I've got a little bit of a fuller grip than on a standard P365. But this is just so thick and so bulky that there are lots of times where I'm in the mood to carry this and I won't. I'll grab this, or I'll grab this. Maybe I'll even grab my MR920. And even that with the comp on it and the X300, it still feels like it carries easier than this. That's kind of nuts. It's kind of a shame because of how much I love this gun. I love how it feels. I love how it shoots. And I do prefer, if I'm carrying appendix, to have a hammer-fired gun because I want to be able to block the hammer with my thumb as I'm holstering so that I can never, ever have any accidental discharge as I'm pointing this at my junk. I like having a hammer. So, is it the greatest thing since sliced bread? I don't know. That's a really, really difficult thing to say. It is a fantastic shooter. It's a unique gun to have in your collection. And I guarantee most people, when you're talking guns and maybe you show them your guns, they're like, wow, I haven't seen one of these in person. I know what it is, but I just really don't ever see them. They're just not out there, man. And there's a couple of really great YouTubers like The Humble Marksman, for example. David has praised this gun up and down. And I think it's helped it to see a little bit of a resurgence. James Reeves over at TFB TV. The man hates a friggin' hammer-fired gun for some reason. As far as a carry gun, refused to carry one. And because of his friendship with Ernest Langdon, he now carries one from time to time. He's had fun shooting his. He's shown his proficiency with it. And yeah, you are going to have to train for it. If you're of the younger generation that really only grew up with striker-fired guns and that one consistent trigger pull from first shot to last, yeah, you're going to have to train so that you're not pulling that first shot or pushing that first shot because you have that longer and heavier trigger pull. And you have to get used to that second shot, that follow-up shot, that trigger only resetting the tiniest fraction of what you think it's going to need to. Again, I mean, you just did a full-length trigger pull in your first shot. You fired off the second shot. I'm sorry, you did that. Now the trigger's reset, and it's only coming to here instead of all the way out here. And yeah, that's a big difference. So I think if you like a double action gun, you are absolutely going to fall madly in love with this gun from the very first time you shoot it, from the very first time probably that you put it in your hand and dry fire it. It is fantastic. It's accurate as hell. It feels like you're shooting a full-size 4 to 5 inch pistol in both its accuracy and in how it's reacting in your hand as far as recoil goes. It's a tiny bit snappy. I mean tiny, tiny bit. For a gun this size, it should be a lot snappier. You don't feel it pummeling your hand. Well, again, it's 9mm. 9mm aren't pummeling anything. But it's not going to feel like anything else. Even your comp guns are going to feel like they have a little bit more of a recoil impulse than this does. That being said, I think it's sprung a bit heavy. And I don't know if it's because of the recoil spring or just the immense mass of the slide. When that thing locks back up, you will definitely dip it down. You have to be in control of it because it almost has negative recoil. Anyway, that being said, that's how I feel about the PX4 Storm. I think it is absolutely one of the best carry guns that you can possibly own if you do it the LTT way. I would not want to shoot this often or carry it in its stock configuration. I just don't like it that much. In this configuration, it's a masterpiece, but it's far from perfect. And that's really hard to say when you've got your own money invested in it and it's something that you personally carry and that you really love, but that's the truth. And that's what I'm here for. Anyway, thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you on the next video.